Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Everyday Strong with Dr. Michael G. Daniels. This is your host, C.B. Baker. And we've got another good topic today, Dr. Daniels. As you know, it's we're in the middle of July now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the first of the year, everybody had a New Year's resolution.
Yes.
And if your New Year's resolution, people, is still going strong, more power to you. God bless you. But I know a lot of us have fell off the wagon. Mm-hmm. And part of what I wanted to talk about today was handling discouragement and what lessons in the Bible that we can look towards and that you can point us towards that help us, you know, get past that discouragement of not being able to get to a goal that we've wanted to reach.
Right. You know, that's a good topic. It's a good thing to look at because I think most people face times in their life when they are discouraged. And most of us don't meet goals because of setbacks. You know, I think that, and if you look at the Bible, there are several instances of individuals that face difficult issues, that face some things that cause them to feel like that, you know, they were being overlooked by God, I guess, you know. I think probably one of the ones that stands out the most, well, a couple of things that stand out, you know. One was one of the issues that Paul had, you know. Apparently Paul had some kind of ailment. Some people say it was related to malaria, and, you know, we don't quite know exactly what the ailment was. But at any rate, apparently it caused Paul to have a lot of difficulty in his witnessing to people. And so the Bible indicates that, and Paul himself says, that whatever that ailment was, he had sought the Lord several times. In fact, his conversation with God was, you know, you let me heal other folk, you know, I'm getting other folk through, and they're benefiting and they're moving forward. What about me? Why am I not being cured so I can move forward? Interestingly enough, God's answer to Paul was kind of startling. Because he didn't say, well, okay, I got you covered. He said to Paul that my grace is sufficient for you, you know. He said to Paul that, listen, the mere fact that I haven't killed you, right, you ought to be happy about. And so rather than you complaining about what I have not done for you, what I need you to do is look around and see what I have already done for you. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's a key thing that I would say that people need to consider, because it is so easy to look at what's not going right and feel discouraged, rather than looking at what is going right and feel encouraged.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
It goes. We hear it all the time that, you know, be grateful for what you have. Mm-hmm. And I always say to people, it's like the devil will steal your joy and always bringing up what you could have had, mm-hmm, or what you should have. Right. And then you miss what you have right now. Absolutely. Or how fast your progress is, you know. So, you know, sometimes we think we're standing still, but we really aren't standing still. And I think that was the point that the Spirit was getting to Paul, is that your assumption is you're standing still because in this one aspect of your life, you have not received the cure that you've been looking for. But what Paul didn't appreciate was it was because of that he was benefiting in other aspects of his life. And so if God had taken that away from him, he wouldn't have got the benefit in other areas. And I think that's a key thing. So, you know, like, for example, let's say if I made my New Year's resolution, let's say, is that I was going to learn a foreign language. Just say, for example, mm-hmm, I'm going to learn a foreign language. And I've been, you know, I was gung-ho for the first 3 months. And now here I am in July, and I haven't done anything, you know, since March, right? Right. And so now I'm like, well, what's the need of even continuing? Okay. Well, oftentimes what people don't think about is, well, wait a minute, but what did I accomplish during the time that I was not studying? And how much have I retained now since I didn't study? And my point is that there's always a positive side to everything that we're doing. Right. So if I tell myself, because I have missed 3 months, that I'm not going to keep going, I forget that there's a blessing in the fact that I have an opportunity to keep going.
you know.
Right.
Because just because you missed 3 months don't mean it's over with.
Right.
All that means is I missed 3 months. But I've learned something in those 3 months, hopefully. And if I haven't, this is the time for me to educate myself and say, well, what did I learn about me in the 3 months that I didn't do it? Why didn't I do it? Right. Why didn't I keep going? Was I progressing then? Was the thing that caused me not to stay in it? What was that? You know, for example, for most of us, if we're studying a foreign language, let's say, and we stop, it's because we don't feel like we're making the progress that we wanted to make.
Right.
Right? Or we're not surrounded by other people that are speaking that language. So the thing is that why was I discouraged in the first place? What happened that caused me to be discouraged, and what caused me to stop? And in Paul's instance, his thing was he felt like he was making no progress, so he stopped. But the Lord said, you're making a lot of progress. You just don't see the progress because you're looking for it in the wrong place. Right.
You know, it also makes me think about too how you can pray for something. You pray for it on Monday, mm-hmm. and you know Tuesday you wake up, you look with one eye and say, "Did it happen yet?" No, mm-hmm. It didn't happen. And then this can go on for a while, and then some people get so discouraged. It's like, you know what, Pastor, I went to church straight, mm-hmm. 6 months. And my situation really ain't changed. Mm-hmm. So they just say, you know what, I tried it. I gave it a faithful try. I'm done. I'm not saying I don't believe in the Lord, but right. I don't need to do X, Y, and Z because it's not really helping me. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's happened to some people out there, whether at any point of their walk in their faith, like, why is this not coming to fruition for me? Mm-hmm. Or people that they saw a great amount of change in their life in the beginning, and then they plateaued. Right. Yeah. What words of encouragement do you have to people that have hit that similar plateau, or just like I'm not really getting anything out of this?
Yeah. Well, that's a difficult question to analyze, and I'm gonna tell you why. Plateau doesn't come because I am not making the effort. I plateau because I got to a point where, because I was improving, I stopped making the effort. In other words, let's say that I have to walk from here to Virginia Beach, from Chesapeake to Virginia Beach, which is approximately maybe 37 miles, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, if I keep putting one foot in front of the other, I'm going to get to Virginia Beach. Right. If I just keep doing it. But what if I get halfway, I get to Norfolk, and what I wanted in Virginia Beach, I find in Norfolk? Mm. Right. Then chances are I will stop walking to Virginia Beach. Right. And someone may say that I plateaued. The reality is I stopped walking. So I'm just saying, to me, if a person plateaus, it is not because what they are doing is no longer fruitful. It's because they stopped the intensity of what they were doing. And mm-hmm. oftentimes that's what we do, mm-hmm. because once we see ourselves progressing, we stop putting the same amount of fight into it, Exercise, is a prime example, with many people. You start out exercising and, you're gung-ho with it and things are going well and your eating habits are going well. And you can you'll see yourself, making progress. But then once you make the progress, right. Then what happens is eating habits start to go back. Mm-hmm. Exercise, starts to go back to where it was because I made the progress. Right. And what happens then when that happens, we go back to where we were. And so then people are like, well, what was the need? Because as soon as I stopped, I went right back to where I was. Right. Well, the problem wasn't that you didn't make progress. The problem is you stopped the forward momentum that you had. So the thing about momentum in any aspect of life is, if you stop the motion, you die. Mm-hmm. That's really what it's amounts to. If you stop the motion, you die. And so anytime a person is not moving toward a goal, is really because they have stopped the motion. You know,
right. You know, I always tell people this story. When I was in Texas and I lived on this, I had a big pond in the backyard, and I saw this turtle, and boy, this turtle was moving slow, and then there was like a little trail around the thing, and I walked around this, and I kept looking at that turtle. Turtle was barely moving. You know how you walk and you kind of just zone out for a little bit. I zoned out. It couldn't have been 10 minutes. You know, daydreaming and whatnot. Now I go look for that turtle. Turtle gone. But see, the turtle's moving slow, but he was still moving.
That's right.
Still moving. And it's amazing how you can get people who are real fast to something and moving real fast, but they sit down because they're tired.
Right.
But then what happens is you sit down and take that break, and then you get comfortable. You know, anybody tell you if you're cleaning up on Saturday morning, you know, you wake up Saturday to clean the house, and if you ever sit down in that chair, it's a wrap. It's like it's hard to get back going again. So I find that, you know, extremely beneficial when I'm coaching people. It's like, just progress just a little bit.
You got to keep moving. You're right. You know, as you already know, it's harder to put an object into motion than it is to keep an object in motion, right? I mean, that's just physics, right?
Right.
And so that's the dynamic. When people are, you know, trying to move forward in life, you know, it's hard to get started the first time. But so when they stop, it's harder for them to get started the second time, so they just don't push anymore. Whereas they had kept moving at a slower pace, or rather than stopping altogether, just slow down, because then you can still get back going. You know, I'll take the foreign language, you know, one for an example. Let's say that, you know, I say to myself, well, you know, I'm not progressing. I'm tired of trying to learn this foreign language. Well, all I have to do is just say, well, wait a minute. Let me learn one new word every day.
Right.
As opposed to me opening a book and trying to read the whole chapter. Let me learn one new word a day. Now, if I learn one new word a day, I'm still progressing. And at the end of the year, I have 365 words that I've just learned.
Right.
And if I learn one new word a day, those words are going to stick with me, because the words I'm going to learn are not the words that will not give me a return on investment. You know, for example, if I'm trying to learn a foreign language, rather than worry about what the book has to say, why don't I learn words that I will use every day, right? Like, what does door, la porte, what does door mean? You know, casa, what does that mean? House, you know, car. See, those are things I'm gonna use every day.
Right.
So that way, when I wake up in the morning, I can repeat those words, you know, bathroom, I can, you know, baño, I can say those words and equate them to my everyday life every day, so it'll stay with me.
Right.
And if I just learn one new one every day, you'd be amazed at, you know, because when you think about a foreign language, really what you're trying to talk to people are those things that are common to you.
Right.
You know, and the things that are common to you are the things you deal with every day. And I think that's a part of it. You know, is that anytime you set any goal, you want to tie that goal to things that you can do every day. Things that are part of your daily life will make you, you know, make you repeat them. You know, as you pointed out before, you know, if I have a goal that will help me be a better individual, as soon as you say you want to be better, you can believe that there are going to be several enemies that's going to try to keep you from being better.
Right.
You know. Right. And so for me personally, I've never had to struggle with that, because for me personally, I've never thought that I wouldn't face opposition. And since I never thought I wouldn't face opposition, when opposition came, for me, it told me, hey, you know what? I must be on the right track. So I need to just keep on pushing.
That's a very good point. So are you saying how you look at things is if you see obstacles kind of there, that is the right way to go? You're heading in the right direction if you see like obvious obstacles there.
Yeah, that's kind, that's kind of the way I look at it, and I tell, when I was a sophomore in high school, I had a English teacher that used to put limericks around the classroom, and for some reason one of them stuck with me. I don't know why, but it just did. And what it said was this: TTT, put up in a place where it's easy to see, the cryptic admonishment TTT. And then when you so slowly and depressingly climb, it's nice to remember that things take time. And that has always stuck with me since sophomore in high school.
Right.
And so that concept has always been in my mind, that if I can get it done easily, it probably isn't worth doing anyway. Because anything that I can do easy, anybody can do easy.
Right.
And so what's that to accomplish? So I'm expecting it to be hard. And if it's not hard, then my thought process is, why am I doing it?
Right.
Because it's not a challenge. It's just not a challenge. For example, as you know, I have a decent sized backyard, right? Now I have a riding lawnmower, but I rarely use it. I push and cut my grass. Matter of fact, I push and cut my grass before I came over here. Okay. Now, people look at me and say, that fool crazy.
Yes.
It's 90 degrees outside.
I would be saying that too.
Why won't he just get on the riding lawnmower?
Right.
Well, because that's the easy way to do it, right? And so for me, if I set a goal of where my, what my stamina is going to be, what my weight is going to be, what my blood pressure is going to be. So again, I do things that are part of my everyday life.
Right.
So it's easier for me to say, let me push this lawnmower, than to always say, I'm going to run 3 miles or I'm going to run 4 miles. Because I got to cut the grass. The grass got to be cut.
Right.
So now if I do that today, guess what? I done burned 400 calories.
Right.
Just pushing my lawnmower, and then I don't have to run.
Right.
Because I've done what I was going to do. I got something done. Grass looks nice. And I got my exercise in for the day. So that's what I'm saying. If we do those kind of things, when you're setting goals, set your goal up so that things that are part of the natural way you do business will help you obtain the goal. And then you won't stop, because those are the things you're going to keep doing every day.
Right.
So you got to cut this grass every week. Sometimes twice a week if it rains a lot, know. And so that's a constant that I'm going to be doing until, the grass growing season ends, which is going to be in November sometime.
So let's recap here. So your advice or suggestions is to make sure that you line or link your goals up with something that you're going to do anyway.
Right.
And then that makes sure that your goal is going to be met when you link it to something that you have to get done.
Right. Right. Because it's just easier, because you have to do it anyway. Right. And you might not like doing it, but you have to do it. And so once you tie them together, then you'll see the progress. And once you see the progress, it adds that incentive for you to not stop doing it.
Right.
Because you see the progress.
Yeah. So, one thing that I have also noticed too, and I tell people, you got to be present in the moment when you're doing things, when you're trying to reach your goal. You can't zone out, because when you zone out, then it becomes like mundane, and because you're thinking about something else while you're doing what you're trying to get accomplished. But when you're present, you feel the journey from where you're at now to where you're going, and you can feel the process within yourself. And then I always say too that you also, that when you feel that process, you can kind of feel the Lord with you when you're present in the moment. To give a good example, like this morning, I'm starting this new little routine called Morning Miracles. So I got up at 4:30 and I go outside to go walk. I said, okay, I'm going to be present while I'm walking. I'm not going to pray. I'm just going to be present with the trees, nature, and everything. And what was funny about the whole scenario was, when I was walking, I said, man, I know this has got to be 30 minutes. And it was only 9 minutes. It's like time just slowed down when I became present in the moment. So it made me think about, what's funny is that people always say, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z. It's because you're thinking about either the future or the past and not thinking about where you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'll tell you something else too. I think, about when you talk about goals and feeling like, well, why am I not meeting the goal? I think also it's because people tend to set the end goal as their only goal.
Right.
As opposed to having intermediary goals along the way. And so one thing that will cause a person to kind of like lose that zeal to keep going is because they haven't reached the end goal.
Right.
But if you set intermediate goals, then you'll see your progress. So, again, if I use the learning a foreign language, if my goal is to become fluent in the language, then I'm going to be a little disgruntled in 6 months because I'm not going to be fluent in the language.
Right.
But if my goal is to, know how to conjugate, irregular verbs, in 2 months, then once I do that, wow, I can conjugate irregular verbs in this language. Or if my goal is to, be able to count to 1,000,000, or if my goal is to know the alphabet. And see, if I keep doing small incremental goals, and every time I meet one of those goals, I'm gonna feel some joy because I've gotten there. And if you, again, if when you look at, the way God laid things out for the patriarchs in the Bible, even though he told them the end state, even though they understood the end state, I think Moses is a classic example. I mean, the end state was to get to the promised land, no doubt about it. Unless you get there, you haven't reached the goal. But each step along the way was reaching a minor goal, And so God would also tell him to go to this location, to go to that location, and to do this and do that. And so they had those intermediary goals along the way, which kept, even though some of the other individuals were becoming disgruntled, Moses kept pushing because God was giving him intermediate goals.
Right.
And once he met that goal, it gave him the assurance that God is with me because he allowed me to meet this goal.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up because this morning I had read Deuteronomy where God told him to do certain things, like clockwork. There's some thick-headed people in there that would not do what he said to do. And then when you got punished, you're not able to go to your promised land. Or he said, look, go, I forget what these people said. These people, this their land, you just go there, you get water, you get your food, and you pay for it, but you're passing through. Right. And of course, the people was tired of walking, so some of them tried to stay, and no, this is not where you're supposed to be at. It's just interesting how the same thing that happened, thousands of years ago, we go through the same stuff now. Just not listening to what he is telling us to do.
Right.
Or we get to the point how we were saying, maybe we were supposed to go to Virginia Beach, but I saw what I was looking for in Norfolk. And we sit down to do what we're going to do in Norfolk, but he's like, this ain't where I want you to be at because your real blessing was in Virginia Beach,
right.
Where it was much bigger. But you say, I'm okay with this, but he's like, no, I had something bigger, better for you. How often do you think that happens to people where they pass inadvertently on their real big blessing to settle for something that was small and shiny on the ground?
I think about 90% of the time. I really think that most people get complacent without obtaining, the goals that God has, the ultimate goal that God has placed on their life. I think most people do, because most people feel uncomfortable being challenged by obstacles. And so for that reason, once they get to a certain place, then you get comfortable there, and it's like, well, why face another obstacle? Why go through it? Why go through it? Why go through it? But it's kind of like, the old saying, no pain, no gain, and the more you go through, the better you enjoy it, when you get there. Some people like the journey. some people like the destination. I think that's the thing. You know, if you're the kind of person that like the journey, then you will get to the end. If you're the kind of person that likes the destination, you rarely get to where you're going. Because as soon as you get somewhere you like, you stop.
Right.
If you like the journey, you never stop moving, because that process is what motivates you, and you keep going. And again, I think that's what happened with them. See, for Moses, he understood that, hey, listen, the promised land, that's the goal. That is the goal. And so even though there's an obstacle, even though there are people over there, even though we may perceive that there are giants in the land,
right,
that's the goal. And so every time God allowed him to accomplish a minor goal, it kind of built up the confidence to say, well, I know God will make a way for us. And I think that's the attitude that people have to say, wait a minute, if God is telling me to go 1,000,000 miles, then I have to ask myself, well, let me chop it up into, 1,000-mile increments.
Right.
And every time I make that first 1,000, no matter how hard it was, if I know that normally I couldn't have gotten there, and if I am there now, it must be because God blessed me. I don't care how hard it was, at least I'm there. If I had to climb Mount Everest to get the 1,000 miles, well, could I have climbed Mount Everest on my own? If the answer is no, I know God blessed me to get there. Mm-hmm. And so if God blessed me to get to the first one, he'll bless me to get to the second one. He'll bless me to get to the third one. And if I keep on stepping out, I can get to the 1,000,000 miles because he's going to put me there. But if I don't set up those smaller goals along the way, I'm going to get discouraged because my mind is going to keep saying, wow, I got 900,000 miles to go.
Right.
I got 800,000 miles to go.
Right.
And that's what happened with some of the Israelites, is that they became disgruntled because they felt like we should have it right now. And let me just say that, just spend about 2 minutes on that. That's the other thing, is that just because I have a goal don't mean I'm ready for it. Mm. It just doesn't.
Right.
The 16-year-old may want a brand new BMW, but that don't mean they're ready for it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So sometimes God, we will ask him for something, and he will delay it, or he will cause us to go through things to get it, so we can appreciate it when we get it, mm-hmm. and so we will know how to take care of it when we get it. Because just because I'm asking him for it don't mean I can handle it when I get it.
Right. That's a very good point. And then also the times when you failed on your goal is also the lessons that you got to learn in order for when you do get it, you'll understand, okay, I got it this time, I know how to get it again. Right. So if I mess up, I say, okay, I messed up, I know how to get back because I know what steps need to take, and I've analyzed it. And also it builds character.
Absolutely. I think that's an important thing to consider, is that me personally, I have never failed. Now, I know there are people that will say, how can he say that? Failure is determined by how you view your life, not by what you went through. Mm. Okay? Right. Now, here's what I'm saying. When I was, 19 years old, I got fired from a job. Okay, I worked for the city of Chesapeake. I got fired from a job. Now, some people may say he failed. I don't, because I learned.
Right.
See, to me, just because I go through a negative, just because I don't accomplish something, doesn't mean I failed at it. All it meant is I learned something. See, if I'm learning from it, I'm not failing.
Right.
Even if I get an F in a class, and I have done that actually, not an F, but I remember getting a D in calculus, not because I couldn't do it, but just because I was lazy. So I got a D in calculus the first time I took it. And some people might say, well, that was a failure. No, it wasn't. I learned something. You know what I learned? Pay attention next time.
Right.
Don't think you can go in there and nod through this class. Go in there and pay attention. And I got an 80 next time. So I didn't see the D as a failure. I saw the D as a learning experience. And that's how I view everything that happens in my life, is that it's a learning experience. And so that's why I'm saying failure is a state of mind. Failure is not what you do. Failure is how you view what you do and what you go through. And if you view everything and you learn from it, then It wasn't a failure. It was just that something you learned from. I mean, that's what Albert Einstein said. Genius is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration.
Right.
His point was, you learn more from you learn more from not succeeding than you learn from succeeding.
Right.
Because if you succeed, oftentimes you don't know why you succeeded.
Right. You're absolutely right.
All you know is it worked out.
It worked.
But you don't necessarily know why it worked out. But when you don't succeed, you can go back and analyze and pinpoint why you didn't succeed, and that then gives you something that you can concretely put your hands on, and you learn from it. So therefore, you made it. It's kind of like education. I guess I would say it that way. Everything you do really should be an education. Mm-hmm. And so whether you succeed or not, if you learn from it, you didn't fail.
Right. You know, one thing that's interesting is when I go to speak at schools and I talk about certain things on what people, what you can accomplish. Mm-hmm. In high school, the kids are already put limits on themselves, mm-hmm. which is really disheartening. Because, when you get older, you be like, boy, I wish I could just go back and just do things a little differently. Mm-hmm. Because now you realize I can do a whole lot, that notion of, you can be anything you want to be. It's like, mm-hmm. they tell that to elementary school kids. Mm-hmm. But some down the road, I guess around middle school, they stop telling kids that. Mm-hmm. And they start thinking about failure all the time. Mm-hmm. And you can see it in their face, they're dejected, or my parents are not well off. We still live in the projects. It's drug deals going down in my neighborhood. You know what, bruh? I'd be happy if I see the age of 25. It's like, why are you even speaking that into an existence mm-hmm. when that is not necessarily have to be true?
Well, I think it's like what you said earlier, is that people oftentimes give up halfway through the fight.
Yeah.
The young man that at age 7 had dreams of being a professional football player, when he got in junior high school, or I guess middle school now, when he got in middle school or got in high school, if most of the time, the reason why he gave up, it's not because he wasn't necessarily good, it's because he didn't want to go to the practices.
Right.
He didn't want to stick to it. And even if I'm not the professional football player caliber, the bottom line is this: when do I know I'm not at that level? I don't know in high school I'm not at that level.
Right.
Michael Jordan in high school wasn't what Michael Jordan was.
That's right.
In college and the pros. So when do I know I'm not at that level? See, I don't. If I give up, I never get to that level.
Right.
And oftentimes, even when you look at, granted, there's a certain amount of skill one must have, but intelligence plays, a lot in many aspects of sports. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, for example, I was a 3-sport athlete. I played football, I ran track, and I played baseball. Okay. Now let me tell you, I wasn't the greatest athlete. There's no doubt in my mind I was not the greatest athlete, but I was smarter than most of the guys.
All right.
And so I started not because I was the fastest. I started not because I was, the greatest at anything. It's because I was smart. I pitched, for example, and played third base. Let me tell you something. I was sorry as I could be. Okay. No doubt, I was sorry. Right. Well, I mean, I made the team, so it was okay. But here's my point: the gentleman that was ahead of me at third base was better than me. He was much better than me. He was a better fielder. He was a better hitter. Okay, but here's what I figured out: the coach likes offense. That's what I figured out. That particular coach liked offense. Right. So I said, you know what? Let me master stealing bases. Mm. I'm going to master, and I did. I mastered stealing bases, and so I ended up being in the lineup starting. Not because I was the best outfielder, right. But you know what the coach's logic was? I got a good shortstop. If he ain't that great at third, I got a good shortstop.
Right.
He can help him out. So my point is that oftentimes when people are giving up, oftentimes when people are not, like especially the students, it is because the way they set their goals are to the end and not, they don't segment them. Mm-hmm. And if you don't segment them, you give up quick. So, if my goal is to be a doctor, right? I must understand that what I need to do. I need to let me get a A in this class. Mm-hmm. Let me get an A in this class.
Right.
And so I ought to set goals like that. Not, well, I know my parents can't afford me to go to college.
Right.
Because you don't know that.
And then they already then set themselves up for failure because they're saying, well, my parents can't afford me to go to college anyway, right. So I'm not even gonna try to be a doctor.
Right. See, but if the goal is set incrementally, I need to get this grade in this class, and then once you get the grade, now you're still on your way. You're still on your way. And so they set incremental goals. It changes the whole dynamic.
Right. Then the real interesting thing is, even with like the academic scholarships, you can't wake up your junior year and say, "Hey, I want to get an academic scholarship." Mm-hmm. Because now I want to be a doctor. So no, right. That decision had to be made 8th grade, where you're getting things mm-hmm. set up. Your 9th grade years.
Foundation.
Right, your foundation is set, and then you got good grades and you get a good GPA. Then you put stuff in for mm-hmm. your scholarship, and you got it. Then the school starts promoting you mm-hmm. to get scholarship because now they start looking good.
Right.
But you can't wake up your junior, and I tell kids this, even in the athletics college, you can't wake up your junior year and say, I want to play college, Division I college football. It don't work that way. You had to already have had. Very few people can do that, and those are right. your Cam Newtons of the world that mm-hmm. are just superb athletes are able to do certain things like that. Mm-hmm. Even like LeBron James, people on that level. But he
didn't start in high school. Even LeBron was playing basketball for a while.
Right, right. So, but
I get what you're saying, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So. People, you can't just wake up in this and decide your junior year that you want to be a superb athlete and then expect to even make it to the NFL. But one good thing, or the NBA, but one thing about it is this. If you take the mindset of the turtle mm-hmm. and you say, okay, and which I like hearing the story of Stephen Curry. Mm-hmm. Like, he was rated not a great person when he was getting recruited for the NBA. The draft, they always put the little scouting report up on him. And he's a 3-time NBA champion and I believe a 2-time MVP. Mm-hmm. And nobody really wanted to draft the guy.
Right.
But he got better every year, mm-hmm. got better every day. He kept shooting the jump shot, kept working on his weaknesses, and then start working more on his strengths. Those are things that people as a whole need to look at themselves and say, hey, I may not be the best today, mm-hmm. but I see the guy that thinks he's the best, but he stopped working. He mm-hmm. stopped off in Norfolk because he was looking at everything and he plateaued. But if I keep moving I'm going to catch him. But if I keep moving, not only will I catch him, I will surpass him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you. And again, I take that back to saying the incremental thing, because the way you can do that is if you can see yourself gradual. Like you say, that slow, that turtle pace keeps going. And I'll give you a practical example of what you're just saying, okay? When I went to the doctor several years back, and the doctor said to me, blood pressure high, cholesterol high, everything out of whack, right? And so go see a sleep therapist and all this kind of thing. And I'm at the neurologist's office, and one of the physician assistant came in, and he said to me, "You know what your problem is?" And I said, "Well, no, that's why I'm here." He said, "You need to lose some weight." Now, in my mind, I didn't think I needed to lose some weight. He said, "That's your problem. You need to lose some weight." And I said, okay. Now, at the time, I weighed about 195. Okay, as heavy as I've ever been in my life. And granted, for my frame, that is a lot. Okay, at that time I wasn't thinking that way though, 195. So my primary care physician said, nah, that ain't it. No, you good like you are. I think you got sleep apnea and this kind of thing. Anyway, I just said to myself, you know what? What if that guy's right? What if he's right? So Here's what I did. And I went against everything that they tell you to do to lose weight. Everything they tell you to do. I should say everything, but a lot of things. I weighed myself in the morning and I weighed myself at night. Every day, in the morning and at night. In the morning and at night. In the morning and at night. Now, reason why I did it that way is because I wanted immediate gratification.
Right.
Immediate gratification. So, first day, nothing. Nothing happened. I was happy as I could be because I didn't gain anything.
Right.
I didn't gain it.
Right.
Well, I said, well, I didn't gain, so I must be on the right track. Because here's how I thought to myself. I know I've been gaining because I'm the heaviest I've ever been. Right. So I had to have been gaining all that time. So for me to stop gaining, I said, well, stop gaining weight. So positive. Next day, I was 1 pound less. I said, wow, this ain't bad. The next day, nothing. It was still even. But my happy thought was, you know what? I haven't reversed the trend. Now, a couple of days later, I reversed the trend and gained weight, but I got immediate feedback. So you know what it told me? You made a mistake.
Right.
Don't do it. The reason why I say it that way is if I hadn't had that immediate feedback and gone a week, I would have put on everything I took off. Then I'd have been so discouraged, I'd have said, forget it.
Right.
But because I got that immediate feedback, I made an immediate adjustment. And you know what? I haven't stopped doing it since then. Since that time, I took off, 30 pounds? And I haven't changed that same thing. I do it every day now because I can make an immediate adjustment, you know.
Right.
And I'm saying that worked for me for that, but it's not just that. It's everything that I do where I set a goal, I make sure I can get immediate feedback. Because if you can get immediate feedback, it keeps you moving. If the feedback is too far down the road, you'll get discouraged because you've gone too far before you saw, either progress or reversal, that kind of thing.
It's similar to like what they say about like flight plans. Mm-hmm. Like you have a plan, but then you're going to get, wind and everything veers you off and you immediately got to correct it. So you get immediate feedback. Okay, come on back, and then you're going straight.
You're right. That's what they teach you when you get your pilot's license.
Yeah.
Is that small corrections sooner prevent large mistakes later.
Right. Which the weight loss suggests I'm going to utilize that immediately, because that's a very good point. Because if you weigh in the morning and you go eat a box of chicken and you weigh at night, and you say, well, I done gained 4 pounds. 4 boxes, like something ain't right. I got to make some adjustments.
But it also tells you something too, though. It tells you that you didn't gain weight.
Right.
That's the other beauty of it. If I weigh, let's say, 180 at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I weigh 185 at 9 o'clock at night, I didn't gain weight. I got food in my stomach.
Right.
So that's what that tells me. I got 5 pounds of food in my stomach.
Right.
That's what it really tells me. Now, if I wake up the next morning, and I still weigh 185, now I know what. You know what? Whatever I did, I didn't do something right.
Right. Right.
And so I'm making that adjustment. But also the adjustment I make too is I know how much calories, because I know my body now. So I know how to equate caloric burn with a reduction in weight. I know how to do that now for me. So I also can take that and say, well, you know what? It's Thanksgiving. And I know, based on that meal, I'm going to probably gain 6 pounds on that meal. I mean, I'm really not gaining 6 pounds because, it ain't going to stay in me forever, right? But I also will know what kind of calories I need to burn before I eat the meal.
Right.
So that's why I'm just saying that there's nothing like that immediate feedback for everything you do. I mean, we know it, I guess, kind of intuitively, that you want immediate feedback, but we don't always apply it to when we're setting goals for life.
Right.
You go outside, first thing you do is look up. Oh, it's gonna rain, so that's immediate feedback. You come back inside and get an umbrella.
Right.
You don't want to wait till the rain falls to realize it was going to rain. So we check the weather report before we go somewhere, because we want immediate feedback so we can make adjustments, like you said, right then and be prepared. And that's really, to me, is a huge part of ensuring that you don't get off track and you stay focused and you keep your goals where you want them to be and keep moving forward.
All right. Well, we have come to our end of this podcast. Is there anything you would like to mention before we close out?
No, I'm just grateful to have. I think we've been doing this for a little bit now, and I think it's been wonderful. I'm just I feel blessed that we're still on this, still giving out good advice to folks, and just stay every day strong. That's all I got to say.
So this is episode 59.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on 60. We will not have one next week because you'll be out of town, and so thank y'all for listening. This is your host CB Baker. Till next time.